Welcome back to Exceptional Talk with Dr. Clark. So, today, guys, we have a great, phenomenal guest. His name is George Folks. He's a filmmaker, educator, humorist, lecturer, trainer, consultant, producer, and visionary. Welcome, Mr. Folks. How are you today?
I appreciate that, Dr. Clark. I'm doing good. Doing good.
Good. All right. So these are a lot. You do a lot. You have a lot of experience. You do a lot. So I'm going to break the ice a little bit with by you just kind of talking about a little bit about yourself. No, not so much of you know um, what I've given. Kind of give us a little synopsis of how you got to be a filmmaker. What was some of the things that inspired you to become all of these things that you are?
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
I really think the Caribbean DNA, my mother's father's from St. Croix. He married a woman from Antigua. My father's mother is from Jamaica, St. Anne's Parish, same parish as Marcus Garvey and Bob Marley. And she married a man from Barbados, which is how we got the last name Folks. And I really believe that the early days of being the son of a single mother who never believed in cutting my wings as an eagle was the difference maker. My mother was very instrumental in seeing that I was not a normal child.
Yes.
I wasn't a everyday child.
Hmm.
I had one of the most unique gifts you would probably ever have in life when my mother said, I give you permission to correct adults if they insult you.
Oh.
If you don't handle it the first time yourself, then you turn it over to me. But I will always allow you to check any adult that disrespects you. You have the temperament, you have the words, you have the good judgment, and you are courageous and not afraid. So I allow you to check any adult that's ever disrespectful. I don't know many children that have ever been given that permission. I was like,
I really don't know too many of them either because mainly we kind of look at that as shunning as being disrespectful. So with you saying that mom gave you permission, and I'm sure it was done, and like she said, she gave you, the permission, but it was done tactfully. That is the thing. Can you kind of give me an example of a situation, or did you encounter any situation where you had to correct an adult?
yeah, it became a normal thing. But as my mother retired and moved to Florida, when I used to come visit her, her form of entertainment used to be, so who have you checked lately? And
Okay.
I would then tell her the story and entertain her because
Okay.
I can tell stories very well. And
Okay.
because I was a professional comic and humorist, I can entertain at the drop of a hat. So my mother's having a Bikino party. This is like early 1961 or two, and everybody's at the house and they're drinking and they're playing Bikino for money by quarters. So all of the pots have quarters in them, and the pots are filling up, and they're drinking and everything. And so there was a certain point in parties where they would always say, "Get George to come in here and dance," and
Oh,
then they
okay.
would put James Brown on Cold Sweat Part One and Two, and I would come out and my brother would put the baby powder down, and then I would dance, and then they would just be throwing money, and then my brother would get the hat and collect all the money, and then we take the money back in the room. Well, on this one particular night, after I had danced, the Bikino party was still going, the music was still going, the grown folks were drinking, and this one man said to me, "Come here, go get me some ice." And I said, "That's not the way you speak to me." They said, "If you'd like me to get some ice, you say, George, would you please go and get me some ice?" He said, "Boy, you do what I tell you to do." I said, "I'm not getting you any ice." and I just shut him down. My little
Okay.
brother was standing there and he was like, I've seen him do this before, so I'm kind of used to being his lieutenant. So I'm gonna be his, I'm gonna be his Cato while
Right.
he's being the Green Hornet.
Right.
And then my mother came over and she said, "What's up?" And I said, he asked me to go get some ice, but he was rude, disrespectful, and he didn't say please. And she looked down at me and she said, "Okay." And she looked at him and she said, "My son's not going to get you no ice." She said, "Georgie." She said, "Georgie, not going to get you no ice, okay? You want some ice, you get up and go get it your damn self, okay? But you don't talk to my son like that."
All right.
And that's a real example of how it used to go down,
Mhm.
And the lady across the street named Miss Richards used to call me Mr. George from the time I was a little boy. She never in my life called me George. She always called me Mr. George. I said, "Miss Richards, why you always call me Mr. George?" She said, "Because you've never been a little boy. You've always been a little man, with an ability to communicate and talk." And her son was named Mervin. She called him Mervin, but she called me Mr. George.
All right. Okay, well, great story. I'm glad you kind of cleared that up because I'm thinking like, okay, is she giving him permission to be disrespectful? But when somebody's being rude to you, you just only addressed it, and then your mom came in. I'm sure by the time your mom intervened, he got the message. Most
No,
definitely.
he got the message from me because
Right,
he
right.
wasn't used to a child that can communicate. This is why I had to learn um and appreciate why my mother did what she did. She said, "You have the skill. You have a God-given gift to communicate at a very high level. I'm not going to cut your wings. You are an eagle,
All
and I'm
right.
going to let you be the eagle that you are." And my wings were never cut in
Okay.
life. My mother never cut my wings. And that's unusual because, most children aren't born to grow up and be an eagle, but I was gifted in that way.
Great. Well, that just kind of sets the tone for what we're about to go into. We want to talk about the state of the community because that is so vital with where we are today. And to talk about children and how they're being raised and what is acceptable and what is unacceptable. Just talk a little bit about some of the things that I know you and I have had, various conversations about this. And this is the reason why I definitely wanted you to come on and share because I think that some children, people in general, need to hear these things that you're going to share with them today. So I'm going to go ahead and let you just jump right on in. I don't know if you want to start with your levels or you want to start with just what you have already, noticed that the state of the community is in at this particular time.
Well, first thing I will, do is stop and give respect and homage to the BX, the Bronx, the Boogie Down, and of course, my shirt celebrates the 50-year legacy of hip hop that was created and developed during my developmental years in
Okay.
elementary school and in during high school. And we actually saw the whole evolution in 1969 or 70. I made four predictions to my buddies in the South Bronx one afternoon while we were hanging out near the schoolyard where they were, playing the music on the spinning the turntables and the DJ on the mic. And really, we were waiting for the cute girls to come to the park,
Okay.
because when the cute girls came to the park, then the DJ would describe the girls and what they were wearing and their name, and you knew the cute girls were now in the house.
Mm.
And so before then you just be breakdancing and folk just laughing and talking, but you waiting for the cute girls to come from the different projects. And when they showed up, they were the fly girl, the roundaway girls, like LL would say.
Mhm.
The reality of where we are in the nation has to do with not having three things. You don't have a decade plan, you don't have a half century plan, and you don't have a century plan. So when you don't have those three things and you're caught in the day to day, month to month, quarter to quarter, annual, New Year's Eve, you're dealing with the plight of the situation without having a plan.
Right.
You could go through 82 games in the NBA, but if you got a plan on how you're gonna win the championship,
Okay.
all you got to do is stick to the plan.
Absolutely.
And when you stick to the plan, then it's all good. In homage to the people or the person that lost their life in Kansas City and the people who were hurt in Kansas City, what Patrick Mahomes did in the playoffs
Mhm.
on the road,
Mhm.
getting his team to understand, you step up and go with me.
Mhm.
I got a plan.
Right.
And all these other teams at home don't mean anything to us because we are the better team. And if you run with me and you don't drop the ball, we're going to do what we need to do. And exactly what he did, back to back Super Bowl champions. Nobody gave it to him. You know, he earned it, but he had a plan.
Right.
And since King has died, what I see in America is a lack of three important things you need in order to understand how to address the problem. The problem is completely out of control. And it's out of control because of the first point. You never had an agenda for the century. So you just walking through, you know, if you go to Disney, it's overwhelming.
Mhm.
You literally need to look at the directory before you
Know where to
experience
go.
Disney,
Exactly.
because it's overwhelming. It is massive. But if you go to the directory or get a copy of the directory and decide in the morning we're gonna do this, this, and this. We're gonna take a break at 2 o'clock. Then we're gonna do this, this, and this, and we'll be ready up until 7. We chill and then we wait for the fireworks. They do fireworks every night, like around 9 o'clock. Now you be chilled, you had a little something to eat for dinner. Now when they do the fireworks, you good to go. A plan. You always have to have a plan. And if you don't have a plan, then you can't take advantage. Racism is an institution that has become very sophisticated, but somebody's got to be in the basement.
Mhm.
Someone's always got to be in the basement in America. They have decided that we fundamentally need to stay in the basement, even though we built the country.
Right. You
We need to,
can't ever get to a higher level than the bottom.
right. And what they do is they allow individuals to succeed in America, but they don't allow the population as a whole to move from certain levels of poverty. You know, when you go to the Black Belt in the Deep South, when you go to the South Bronx, which is the poorest congressional district in the United States, and it's in New York City,
Right.
and it's abject poverty.
Right.
So when you have these pockets of poverty all across America of people of color, and particularly Black folks, you need a system to come up out of that basement. And that basement needs to be where we develop the most brilliant minds for the future. You take a child in poverty and give them the skills to be the finest human being they can be and ask them to stay humble, you can't get a better human being because
Well,
they come from,
isn't that what education's supposed to be doing, though? Isn't that
yeah, but
all about what education is supposed to determine those brilliant minds, help them to grow and to become productive citizens? Isn't that what it's about?
yeah,
So
but
where has education failed?
well, you would have to go back to Brown versus Board of Education. And the reality of education in America is the following statement. Benjamin Mays made it very clear. The reason why we teach all of the children equally in a classroom is because we don't know who God is going to pick for greatness. So when you don't live by that philosophy, but you live by the philosophy that if I educate this Vietnamese child who's 4.0, this child could live anywhere they want once they become a professional. So if they go to med school, become a surgeon, and I have this elite white community, this person could actually come and buy a house and live in that community. Well, see, that throws off all of the elite game that white folks are playing in America, because wherever they have one of their most elite communities, don't nobody of color live there. That's been their game.
Okay.
So now when you educate all of the children, you can't play that game no more, because that baby who was 4.0 in elementary school, 4.0 in high school, 4.0 in college, 4.0 in med school, did their residency, now considered one of the most brilliant surgeons in the country, that child could live anywhere now. See, that's what undermines the fabric of racism. And so you have to muddy up academics so you don't get the people coming from the basement then being the finest Americans, because we've already proven individually that we produce the finest individuals. I give you 3 names in the history of America who didn't academically go to school, but turned out to be 3 of the greatest human beings that ever lived. And I'm talking about just Alabama now. Okay,
Okay.
ready? You ready?
Good.
Nat King Cole.
Yes. Let me have
Nat
those
King
names.
Cole. There is nobody that has ever touched Nat King Cole.
All right.
I mean, Mel Torme wrote a Christmas song for one person, and that song generates over $400,000 a year for his wife, and that's one song. And he just did the mechanical part. He just sung the song. Second, there's nobody that can touch Willie Mays, one of the greatest baseball players to ever walk the planet, still living, 92 years old, and a phenomenal individual. When you win the World Series and they give you the MVP, you know whose name is on it?
No.
The trophy says Willie Mays. You win the World Series and you get the MVP and you get a trophy with a black man's name on it.
Yeah.
In a game that they didn't even want us to play and integrate, but we've risen to the level where the finest person in the World Series MVP, the name on the trophy is a black man. And last but not least, they said Babe Ruth was the ticket. Babe Ruth was the bomb. And you know, my man from Mobile, Alabama, a kid who used to use an axe to cut tree stumps so his father could take a bath. And when I met Billy Aaron, when we were honoring Edwin Moses' new track at Morehouse, I leaned over and I said to Miss Aaron, I said, do you think him using the axe had something to do with complementing his swing in baseball? She said, yeah, I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
And these are 3 phenomenal black men. And they didn't get the chance to go and get to school and get degrees and all of that. But look what we still did as individuals. We're phenomenal as individuals.
Well,
and we've proven.
There are so many phenomenal students and children still today. Now, let me go back to what you said about all of them being taught the same thing. Now, it's no longer, everybody in one pot. What we definitely try to do is meet our children by their needs, which means that there's individualized training, teaching, differentiation, whatever it is necessary to make those kids learn, help them to learn, support them in learning. But with this being Black History Month, and you just gave us some great history, but I want you to talk about something a little more closer to your heart. You talked about there are 3 things or 3 people, or correct me if I'm saying it wrong, but that could change the way society has been if they do this plan that you feel that will definitely make a change. So
no question.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. When you look at a crisis, or you look at this particular crisis, how do you then change the position of the basement? If today 80% is still in the basement, then how do you get folks on the elevator and get them to the penthouse?
Gotcha.
That has to be your ultimate goal in your existence in this country. That you left the basement, took a whole lot of folks with you who were quality, because you always made the issue that character and quality has to go. You can't go to the penthouse and do no nonsense. You see what I'm saying? See, we've accepted nonsense on the character side in the Black community. And grown folks have stopped talking to children, making it clear to them that whatever you want to do is not accepted if it's out of character or it's disrespectful. So we haven't taught them the words of character. There are 25 words you could use in teaching character. If you're not teaching character, you're not producing good human beings. I don't care about your degrees. I don't care about your money. You have to develop people who have those fundamental characteristics of character. Now, once you find out that you need to leave the basement, you have to have 3 people in the meeting at all times. You have to have the smart person, really smart person. You got to have the person who is innovative. They look at something and they say, we could do that differently. And the third person you have to have is the person with absolute courage. They are the courage person. The last person I would throw in is the person who always brings the group to a spiritual position of prayer, humility, and call on the power of God to bless you in ways that man won't be able to understand how you got that done. You see what I'm saying? Because when you walk in faith at the highest level, man cannot figure out how you do what you did, because man is thinking that it has to do with something logical. Right. But when you operate in faith at the highest level,
yeah.
See what I'm saying? When you operate at that higher level spiritually, you get blessings that you can't explain.
All right.
So those are the 4 folks you need in the room. And those 4 folks working together will give you new solutions and strategies across the country. And if you allow other people in the room that don't complement those 4, you got to ask them to leave.
Okay. Well, before you get into the dynamics of how this plan can really help our community, we're going to go ahead and end part 1, because I want people to understand that they got to hear part 2. So listen to George Folks. You're not going to be the same. So we're going to go ahead and end part 1. Come on back to part 2, Exceptional Talk with Dr. Clark.